The vast machinery of the stars is driven by the same silent pulse that beats within your own chest. Look within, for the drop does not merely contain the ocean, it is the ocean. The alchemist's maxim. Come close, and let us settle into the quiet spaces of the mind, where the noise of the rushing world fades into a distant hum. Imagine, if you will, that we are standing at the precipice of a vast, starlit ocean, holding a lantern that illuminates not just the water before us, but the very fabric of existence itself. We have gathered here to speak of something ancient, something that has whispered through the corridors of time, echoing in the halls of alchemists, mystics, and philosophers for thousands of years. We speak of the Emerald Tablet, and more specifically, of that singular, resonant line that claims to hold the key to the entire cosmos, the principle that binds the infinite expanses of the galaxies to the microscopic dance of the atom. It is a journey not merely into history, but into the hidden architecture of your own being. To understand the Emerald Tablet is to understand the longing of the human spirit for unity throughout the ages. We have looked up at the firmament, overwhelmed by the chaos and the majesty of the stars, and we have looked down at the earth, entangled in the complexity of our daily lives, and we have asked, is there a pattern? Is there a single thread that weaves this tapestry together? The Emerald Tablet, attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, the master of masters, offers an answer that is as terrifying in its simplicity as it is profound in its depth. It suggests that the universe is not a collection of fragmented, separate parts, but a coherent, living mirror. It proposes that there is a correspondence, a secret harmony, that ensures nothing is truly disconnected from the whole. When we speak of the one line that explains everything, we are referencing the Hermetic axiom that has become the cornerstone of esoteric wisdom: that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of one only thing. Pause with that for a moment. Let the weight of those words sink into the soil of your consciousness. It is not merely a poetic comparison. It is a statement of scientific and spiritual law. It implies that the macrocosm, the great universe out there, and the microcosm, the small universe inside, you are reflections of one another. The swirling nebula that births a star operates on the same fundamental geometric and energetic principles as the dividing cell that births a life, or the thought that births an idea. In this light, the Emerald Tablet is not just an artifact of antiquity, it is a map of reality. It serves as a lens through which the fractured pieces of our perception can be brought back into focus. We often walk through life feeling small, isolated, and at the mercy of forces we cannot comprehend. We see the world as out there and ourselves as in here, separated by the barrier of skin and skull. But this ancient wisdom challenges that separation. It whispers that if you wish to understand the structure of the heavens, you need only look deep within yourself, for you are a solar system in miniature. And conversely, if you wish to understand the depths of your own soul, you must look to the movements of nature and the cosmos, for they are the externalized projection of the internal mind. This concept of as above, so below is the golden key that unlocks the door to what the alchemists called the unus mundus, or the one world. It suggests that there is a continuity of consciousness that runs through all matter, from the densest stone to the most ethereal spirit. It invites us to see the world not as a machine made of dead parts, but as a living organism where every breath you take is in rhythm with the tides, and every beat of your heart is in sync with the pulse of the earth. It is a dizzying perspective, one that requires us to shed the heavy cloak of materialism and step into a more fluid, metaphorical way of seeing. It asks us to become alchemists of our own perception, transmuting the lead of mundane observation into the gold of higher understanding. As we embark on this exploration, it is crucial to approach the Emerald Tablet not as a rigid dogma, but as a fluid mystery. The text itself is cryptic, encoded in symbols and allegories, meant to bypass the logical defenses of the rational mind and speak directly to the intuition. It is like a piece of music. You do not analyze the notes to find the meaning. You listen to the melody and let it move you. We are looking for the miracle of the one thing, that underlying essence or substance from which all diversity springs. In modern physics, we might call it the unified field. In spirituality, we might call it the Tao, or the Logos, or the divine mind. The label matters less than the realization we are swimming in a sea of interconnectedness where the distinction between the observer and the observed is an illusion. So, as we prepare to peel back the layers of this ancient text, I invite you to open your mind to the possibility that you are much more than you have been told. Imagine that the universe is whispering a secret to you, a secret that has been hidden in plain sight, written in the geometry of flowers, the cycle of the seasons, and the architecture of your own dreams. We are about to trace the lines of this secret, to follow the thread from the soil to the stars, and to discover how this single line of wisdom can reshape the way we engage with reality itself. We stand at the threshold of the Temple of Wisdom, and the door is beginning to creak open. Let us now wade deeper into these ancient waters, moving past the surface reflection to touch the currents that move beneath. If the introduction served as our invitation to the mystery, this section is our study of the map itself, the cartography of the invisible. When we contemplate the core themes of the Emerald Tablet, we are not merely cataloging archaic ideas, we are examining the very engine of reality. The text is brief, cryptically concise, yet within its few distinct lines lies a philosophy so comprehensive that it attempts to bridge the chasm between the creator and the created, the thought and the thing. At the heart of this wisdom lies a concept that dissolves the rigid boundaries of our modern, compartmentalized world, the concept of the unus res, or the one thing. Consider, if you will, the nature of a single seed. Within that tiny, hard shell lies the potential for a towering oak, the blueprint for roots that will crack stone, and the pattern for leaves that will drink the sunlight. The Emerald Tablet posits that the entire universe is like that seed, unfolding from a single, primordial source. This one thing is the fundamental substance of existence. It is the canvas upon which the painting of reality is splashed, and it is also the paint itself. In our modern tongue, we might struggle to name it. Quantum physicists might whisper of the unified field or the quantum vacuum. Theologians might speak of spirit or the breath of God. The tablet tells us that all diversity, all the chaotic manifold of shapes and colors we see around us, are merely adaptations, modulations of this singular essence. Therefore, nothing is truly alien to us, for everything is woven from the same thread. From this foundation of unity rises the pillar of polarity and gender, famously encoded in the tablet's poetic imagery. The sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth is its nurse. Here, we are given a masterclass in the mechanics of creation. The sun represents the active, masculine, projective force, the spark of intention, the sheer will of the cosmos, or the conscious mind. The moon is the receptive, feminine, magnetic force, the subconscious, the womb of formation, the reflection that gives shape to the light. The tablet is teaching us that creation is not a solo act, but a dance of opposites. For anything to manifest, be it a star, a child, or a revolutionary idea, there must be a marriage between the active impulse and the passive reception. The wind carrying it speaks of the medium of transmission, the subtle atmosphere of spirit or prana, and the earth nursing it grounds these lofty energies into physical, tangible matter. This leads us inevitably to the profound theme of vibration and transmutation. The tablet instructs the seeker to separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, acting prudently and with great judgment. This is not a culinary instruction, nor merely a laboratory procedure for smelting ore. It is a psychological and spiritual directive. In the alchemical view, our ordinary reality is a mixture of the gross, the heavy, the dense, the sluggish lead of our fears and conditioning, and the subtle, the refined, the energetic, the gold of our higher consciousness. The core theme here is that we have the agency to distill our own being. We are called to refine our perception, to lift the heavy veil of materialism, and perceive the energetic reality behind it. It suggests that the hierarchy of the universe is a gradient of density, not a separation of location. Spirit is simply matter vibrating at a rate too fast to see. and matter is spirit vibrating at a rate slow enough to touch. Furthermore, we must grapple with the theme of the cyclic nature of existence. The tablet describes a force that ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth. This is the heartbeat of the cosmos. It is the breath of Brahma. Nothing in the universe is static. Everything is in a constant state of flux, a perpetual rising and falling. This circulation ensures that the powers of the above, the archetypal, the divine, the abstract, are brought down to impregnate the below, and the experiences of the below, the sensual, the concrete, the lived, are carried up to enrich the above. It is a feedback loop of cosmic proportions. This theme destroys the idea of a distant, clockmaker god who wound up the universe and left it to tick down. Instead, it presents a reality that is alive, breathing, and constantly renewing itself through this vertical exchange of energy. Ultimately, these themes converge on the idea of mentalism, the notion that the universe itself is mental in nature. If as above, so below holds true, and if we possess a mind that creates our personal reality through thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions, then the macrocosm must also be a great mind. We are, in a sense, thoughts within the mind of the all. This is perhaps the most empowering and terrifying theme of all. It implies that we are company creators. We are not merely dust in the wind, but focal points where the one thing becomes self-aware. The patterns we hold within our internal world, our fears, our loves, our hidden assumptions, cast long shadows that form the landscapes of our external lives. The Emerald Tablet, therefore, is a manual for the responsibility of consciousness. It tells us that to change the reflection in the mirror, we must change the face looking into it. As we stand amidst these towering pillars of thought, unity, polarity, transmutation, and mentalism, we begin to see the outline of a grand design. We realize that the one line that explains everything is not a magic spell, but a statement of law. It is the physics of the soul. We are beginning to understand that the alchemist's laboratory is not a room filled with bubbling flasks, but the very life we are living right now. Every moment is a mixture of elements waiting to be transmuted. But to truly grasp how these abstract laws play out in the drama of existence, we must move from the theoretical to the allegorical. We must see how these truths cloak themselves in story and symbol to bypass the guards of our rationality. We leave the lecture hall of concepts now and step into the twilight realm of myth and symbol, the language the soul speaks when the waking mind is asleep. The Emerald Tablet does not merely present a dry formula. It offers a drama, a play of cosmic forces enacted on the stage of the imagination. To truly grasp the one line, we must become literate in the imagery of the alchemists, those poets of matter who hid their truths in dragons, kings, and strange, impossible marriages. These narratives are not fables to be dismissed. They are holographic fragments of the whole truth, designed to bypass our intellectual defenses and resonate with the deep, archetypal chords of our being. Consider, first, the enduring image of the Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail. In the context of the Emerald Tablet, this is the visual manifestation of the one thing. It is a creature that has no beginning and no end, a closed loop of eternal return. It requires no food from outside itself, for it feeds on its own substance. It generates no waste, for it consumes all that it produces. This is the universe in its totality, self-creating, self-sustaining, and self-consuming. When the tablet speaks of the one thing from which all adaptations arise, it is describing this circle. In our own lives, the Ouroboros reminds us that every ending is a new beginning, that the destruction of an old self is the necessary fuel for the birth of the new. It teaches us that the energy we send out into the world circles back to consume us, or to sustain us. We are trapped in the belly of the snake until we realize we are the snake. Move deeper into the alchemical gallery, and you will encounter the strange and beautiful allegory of the chemical wedding, the Hieros Gamos. Here, we see the Red King and the White Queen standing before each other. The king represents the sun, the father, the active sulfur, the rigid ego, and the directive power of the conscious mind. The queen represents the moon, the mother, the fluid Mercury, the receptive soul, and the deep, dark waters of the unconscious. Separately, they are incomplete. The king is too hot and dry, prone to tyranny and burning out. The queen is too cold and wet, prone to drowning and dissolution. The emerald tablet hints at their union when it speaks of the sun as father and moon as mother. The narrative of their marriage is the story of our own psychological integration. It is the tale of the death of the individual ego as it merges with the greater soul to produce the rebis, the divine child, or the philosopher's stone. This is not just a romance. It is a violent, beautiful fusion where two become one to create a third state of being that possesses the powers of both but is limited by neither. Then there is the narrative of the bird of Hermes, often depicted eating its own wings or flying between the earth and the sun. This imagery directly correlates to the tablet's instruction to ascend from the earth to the heaven and again descend to the earth. The bird represents the volatile spirit, the part of us that yearns to fly free from the heaviness of the body. The eating of the wings, or the fixing of the volatile, is a story about grounding. It tells us that spiritual ascension is useless if it is not brought back down. Imagine a mystic who spends years on a mountaintop, achieving perfect bliss, but refuses to return to the valley to share that light. The alchemical narrative warns that this is a failed work. The true master, the one who has deciphered the tablet, is the bird that flies up to gather the fire of the stars and dives down to plant that fire in the cold earth. It is a story of continuous circulation, reminding us that we are the elevator cables between the dirt and the divine. Let us also reflect on the metaphor of the green lion devouring the sun. In alchemical illustrations, we often see a beast of verdant green swallowing the golden orb. This seems violent, frightening even. But in the symbolic language, the green lion represents the raw, unrefined forces of nature, or the dissolving solvent of our own honest introspection. To devour the sun is to allow our consciousness, the sun, to be overwhelmed and dissolved by the vital forces of growth and nature, or to allow our rigid ego to be eaten by the truth of our instincts. It is the dark night of the soul where the golden light of our perceived identity is extinguished so that it may be digested and reborn as something real, rather than something merely shiny. It parallels the tablet's command to separate the subtle from the gross, a process that often feels like being torn apart before being put back together. Finally, imagine the symbol of the caduceus, the staff of Hermes himself, two serpents intertwining around a central rod, often surmounted by wings. This is the visual map of the tablet's polarity. The two snakes are the opposing currents of nature, the solar and lunar, the active and passive, the constructive and destructive. They twist and turn, crossing each other at the chakras or energy centers. But notice, they are not fighting, they are dancing. They are held in equilibrium by the central staff, the middle pillar, the axis of stillness. The wings at the top represent the liberated consciousness that arises when these opposites are balanced. The narrative here is clear. We are not meant to destroy the negative and keep only the positive. We are meant to harmonize them. The one line that explains everything is the staff itself, the central truth that holds the tension of opposites in a stable, ascending spiral. These stories, the snake, the wedding, the bird, the lion, the staff, are not ancient fiction. They are the screenplay of the reality happening inside you right now. Your blood creates a circle of life. Your mind balances reason and intuition. Your spirit rises in hope and descends in grief. The emerald tablet is simply the script that explains the plot. By seeing these symbols not as drawings on parchment, but as movements in the symphony of your own life, we prepare ourselves to take the final, crucial step, moving from understanding the mystery to living it. We must now ask how this cosmic architecture affects the way we wake up, work, love, and exist in the modern world. Having descended from the heights of cosmic law and wandered through the verdant forest of archetypal symbols, we must now plant our feet firmly on the ground of the everyday. It is here, in the grit and texture of our daily existence, that the emerald tablet faces its truest test. Wisdom that floats forever in the ether, untouched by the reality of a Monday morning or the friction of a difficult relationship, is merely intellectual ornamentation. The alchemists were not just dreamers, They were workers. They labored over their fires, sweating in the heat, insisting that the great work must be realized in physical matter. So, we must ask, how does as above, so below actually change the way we live? How does this ancient code reconfigure our approach to our careers, our bodies, our anxieties, and our neighbors? The first, and perhaps most challenging implication of the tablet, is the radical responsibility it places upon the individual. If the below our external circumstances is a reflection of the above our internal state, then we can no longer afford the luxury of victimhood. When we look at the chaos in our lives, the recurring conflicts, the financial droughts, the patterns of betrayal or stagnation, we are conditioned to look for the cause out there. We blame the economy, the government, our parents, or bad luck. But the Emerald Tablet gently turns our head away from the window and toward the mirror. It suggests that the world is not happening to us, but from us. This is not to say that external tragedies do not exist, but rather that our resonance with them, and the specific texture of our reaction, is dictated by the geometry of our own consciousness. If we wish to change the movie playing on the screen of our life, it is futile to shout at the screen. We must change the film in the projector. This realization is a double-edged sword. It strips us of our excuses, but it hands us the scepter of sovereignty. We realize that by tidying the room of our mind, by transmuting the lead of our own resentment into the gold of gratitude, we physically alter the magnetic field of our reality. This principle extends viscerally into the realm of our physical health, bridging the gap between the mind and the body. Modern medicine is only just beginning to map the pathways that the Hermeticists intuited millennia ago, that the body is the below to the mind's above. Every thought releases a cascade of chemistry. Every persistent fear tightens a muscle or constricts a vessel. The tablet teaches us that the body is the dense, crystallized aspect of the soul. Therefore, to heal the body, we cannot simply treat it as a broken machine. We must look upstream to the source of the pollution. We begin to understand that an ulcer is not just a bacteria, but a physical manifestation of a worry that has been nursed by the earth of the body until it became flesh. Practical alchemy, then, is the practice of somatic awareness, recognizing that a tension in the shoulders is a rigid belief held in the mind, and that by breathing space into the mind, we release the shoulders. We treat the vessel with reverence, understanding that it is the laboratory in which the spirit experiences the world. Furthermore, the Emerald Tablet revolutionizes our understanding of relationships. In a world of separation, we view others as distinct entities, often as competitors or obstacles. But through the lens of the one thing, the other person is merely another face of the ultimate self. When we are locked in conflict with a partner or a colleague, the tablet invites us to ask, what part of myself is this person reflecting back to me? If I am triggered by their arrogance, where does arrogance live within me? If I am repelled by their neediness, what part of my own vulnerability have I rejected? The other becomes a mirror, revealing the shadows we have cast into the unconscious. This shifts our social interactions from a battleground of egos to a school of soul-making. Compassion becomes not just a moral duty, but a logical necessity, for to harm another is, quite literally, to harm a part of the interconnected web that sustains you. We begin to treat our interactions as sacred exchanges, knowing that the energy we emit loops back to us with mathematical precision. On a societal and environmental level, the implications are staggering. Our current ecological crisis is a direct result of forgetting the one thing. We have treated the earth as a dead pantry to be raided, forgetting that the earth is its nurse. We have severed the link between the above of our economic ambitions and the below of the planetary consequences. The tablet warns us that you cannot poison the nurse without starving the child. A civilization built on the illusion of separation, where we believe we can dump toxins in the river without eventually drinking them, is a civilization at war with reality. Integrating the tablet's wisdom means moving toward a biomimetic society, one that designs its industries, cities, and economies to mimic the circular, regenerative cycles of nature. It calls for an economy that is an Ouroboros, where waste equals food, and where the health of the whole is the metric of wealth. Finally, the practical application of the tablet is found in the art of transmutation in our daily habits. We all possess lead in our lives: laziness, fear, addiction, procrastination. The uninitiated try to cut these things out or suppress them, which often only makes them denser and heavier. The alchemist, however, knows that lead and gold are made of the same atomic stuff, just arranged differently. We do not destroy our negative traits, we transmute them. We take the fiery energy of our anger and refine it into the drive for justice. We take the heavy, stuck energy of our depression and distill it into deep empathy and introspection. We use the friction of our daily obstacles as the heat required for our own transformation. We learn to act prudently and with great judgment, making small, subtle shifts in our daily routine that compound over time into a completely different state of being. In this way, the one line that explains everything becomes a walking stick for the journey of life. It turns the mundane into the magical. It reminds us that washing the dishes is an act of order against chaos, that listening to a friend is an act of unification, and that every moment offers a choice between the gross and the subtle. We stop waiting for a miracle to save us, and instead, we begin to perform the miracle of the one thing through our own conscious living. We are now ready to gather these threads: the history, the theory, the symbols, and the practice, and weave them into a final conclusion, a call to full awakening. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey, though in the circular logic of the Emerald Tablet, every end is merely a prelude to a new beginning. The fire in our alchemical hearth has burned low, leaving behind the glowing embers of insight, and the heavy books of theory have been closed. We have traversed the vast distances from the birth of stars to the beating of the human heart, guided by a single, ancient sentence that serves as the spine of reality. We have seen how as above, so below is not a platitude, but a physics, not a comforting whisper, but a roaring command to awaken. As we stand here, at the threshold of returning to the ordinary world, we must gather these scattered gems of wisdom and fuse them into a single, radiant stone, the philosopher's stone of our own transformed understanding. The question that remains, hanging in the silence like the final note of a great symphony, is simply this: what will you do with what you now know? To possess the knowledge of the Emerald Tablet is a burden as much as it is a gift. It strips away the comforting illusion of randomness. You can no longer walk through the world believing that you are an isolated fragment, a piece of driftwood tossed about on a meaningless ocean. You have seen the strings. You have glimpsed the intricate, golden web that connects your fleeting thought to the movement of the galaxies. You now understand that you are a participant in a cosmic dialogue that has been ongoing since the first dawn. This realization demands a shift in identity so profound it feels like the death of the small, separate self that believes it is alone. In its place, a grander self must arise, one that recognizes it is the universe experiencing itself, a focal point where the one thing becomes conscious of its own majesty. We must realize that the true laboratory was never a room filled with glass beakers and furnaces. The laboratory is your soul, and the chemicals are your emotions, your intellect, and your will. The great work is not to turn lead into gold for the sake of riches, but to transmute the leaden weight of unconscious living into the golden brilliance of awakened presence. When the tablet speaks of acting prudently and with great judgment, it is calling you to become the master of your own internal weather. It is a call to cease being a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance and to become the tree rooted deep in the earth of the body, reaching high into the heaven of the spirit, standing firm regardless of the storm. It is an invitation to inhabit the middle pillar, the balance point where the chaos of the world is met with the stillness of the witness. As you step forward from this moment, carry with you the vision of the Ouroboros. Let it remind you that everything you put out into the world, every act of kindness, every judgment, every vibration of love or fear, will eventually circle back to you. You are the weaver of your own fate. If you perceive a world of hostility, look within and transmute your own inner wars. If you perceive a world of scarcity, look within and tap into the infinite abundance of your own spirit. You are the projector, and the world is the screen. The Emerald Tablet hands you the power to change the film. It asks you to stop cursing the reflection in the mirror and instead to smile at it, knowing that as you change, the reflection has no choice but to follow suit. This is the ultimate empowerment, the realization that you are not a victim of reality, but a company creator of it. Therefore, let this be your call to transformation. Do not let this wisdom gather dust in the attic of your mind, filed away as interesting philosophy. Live it, breathe it, test it in the crucible of your daily life. When you feel the heat of anger, remember the alchemical fire and use it to forge boundaries rather than burn bridges. When you feel the crushing weight of sorrow, remember the earth that nurses the seed, and allow yourself to germinate in the darkness. Look for the correspondences in everything: the way a tree branches like a lung, the way a river flows like a vein, the way a family argument mirrors a geopolitical conflict. See the patterns. Read the signature of the one thing in the eyes of a stranger, in the chaotic geometry of a city street, and in the silence of the night sky. The Emerald Tablet concludes not with a period, but with an ellipsis, an open-ended invitation for you to write the next line. You are the modern Hermes. You are the bridge between the high and the low. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. It has been whispering this secret to you in the rustling of the leaves and the beating of your own pulse. Now that you have heard it, you cannot unhear it. The separation is over. The illusion is shattered. The miracle of the one thing is not something you find, it is something you are. Go now and perform the miracle of being fully, radiantly, and consciously alive. The work is yours to finish.